ever just stopped and thought, being a human is kind of weird? Like, we're stuck between thinking about the vastness of the cosmos and, what to have for dinner. It's this strange, often difficult experience we all share. So let's just dive right into it.
I mean, come on, that just nails it, doesn't it? We are fully aware of how the game ends, we know the stakes, and yet the social contract is to just carry on, enjoy the party, and pretend it's all going to last forever. This right here, this tension, is exactly what we're going to unpack. And really, this is the fundamental question. Your dog isn't having an existential crisis over his food bowl. A squirrel isn't pondering its purpose in the great cosmic scheme. It's just us. So where on earth does this beautiful and sometimes crushing need for meaning come from? To figure that out, we first have to just sit with how strange our situation really is. You could almost say we're the universe's most interesting and probably most anxious glitch.
This is pretty much the human paradox in a nutshell. Think about it. We are literally made from the remnants of exploded stars, and yet we spend our days worrying about emails and traffic. We can contemplate the concept of infinity, but a slow internet connection can bring our entire world crashing down. It's wild. So how did we get to be this way? Well, to understand that, we need to rewind the tape a bit. Turns out this whole existential dread thing has some pretty deep roots in our own evolution. Okay, this comparison is just perfect. It shows the incredible cognitive leap we've taken. A squirrel's life? Pretty straightforward. But ours? Oh man. That third item on the human to-do list is brought to you by our prefrontal cortex. Yep, the part of our brain that's amazing at planning, but also at overthinking absolutely everything. Psychologists actually have a name for this whole dynamic. It's called terror management theory. And the basic idea is pretty simple. As soon as our brains got smart enough to realize that we weren't going to be around forever, it created this deep, constant, underlying terror that we've been trying to deal with ever since. And how do we manage it? Well, we create things. We build things that feel like they'll outlast us. We pour ourselves into building magnificent cathedrals, writing timeless music, and we obsess over this idea of legacy. A huge chunk of human civilization, according to this theory, is really just an elaborate defense mechanism against our own impermanence. So, and this is the crucial part, our hyper-awareness is a total double-edged sword. Some research suggests that for us to even get out of bed in the morning, our brains had to evolve this amazing skill for functional denial. It can hold the terrifying, capital T, truth of our mortality in one hand, while simultaneously focusing on the immediate need to, finish this crossword puzzle. But it's not just a biological thing. Our self-awareness also saddles us with a pretty heavy philosophical weight. One philosopher called it the dizziness of freedom. Right? So this fantastic phrase comes to us from the 19th century philosopher Soren Kierkegaard. He used it to describe that unique kind of anxiety that doesn't come from any outside threat, but from our own endless, terrifying field of choices. This illustrates his point perfectly. Imagine you're standing on the edge of a cliff. The fear of accidentally falling, that's just a normal physical fear. But that weird, stomach-lurching feeling you get, the dizziness, that comes from the terrifying realization that you are in control, that you could choose to jump. It's the awareness of our own radical freedom that can be so overwhelming. And just so you know, this is not some new modern problem. Not at all. The oldest written story we have, the Epic of Gilgamesh, is pretty much about a king having a full-blown existential crisis. His best friend dies, he becomes absolutely terrified of his own death, and he goes on this epic quest for eternal life. And, spoiler alert, a snake eats the magic plant. We've been wrestling with this stuff for over 4,000 years. So, I know this has all sounded a bit bleak so far, but what if we've been framing it the wrong way? What if this feeling isn't a design flaw, but maybe an invitation? Asking this question really changes everything. What if, when we look at this through a more spiritual lens, all our angst isn't just random noise from a brain that evolved too fast? What if it's actually a signal trying to point us towards something more?
C.S. Lewis put this so well. He argued that this deep, constant longing we have for meaning, for permanence, for something this world just can't seem to deliver, is actually a piece of evidence. A fish isn't frustrated by a desire to fly because it belongs in the water. So why do we feel so out of place here? Well, maybe, he suggests, it's because this isn't our final home. So from this point of view, our existential dread isn't a bug, it's a feature. It's the feeling of a God-shaped hole. This idea that we feel incomplete because we're fundamentally designed for a connection to the eternal, and nothing in this temporary world is ever going to fully satisfy that deep ache. Okay, so whether you see all this as a biological glitch, a philosophical burden, or a spiritual homing beacon, the real question is, how do we actually live with it? On a normal Tuesday afternoon. Well, here are a few ideas. First, just embrace the sheer absurdity of it all. You have to laugh at the fact that you're a collection of stardust that worries about taxes. Humility is a great antidote to angst. Second, lean into connection. This is huge. Study after study shows that deep, meaningful relationships are basically the kryptonite for existential dread. And finally, acknowledge the signal. Instead of just distracting yourself from that little voice asking, "What's my purpose?" maybe try listening to it. It might be trying to tell you something important. This is really the heart of the matter. This is the tension we all live in. We are these temporary, fragile creatures, but we're filled with these bottomless desires for things that feel timeless: love, meaning, purpose. And learning how to navigate that paradox, well, that's the great work of being human. Look, it's complicated, it's messy, and yeah, sometimes it's terrifying. But when you really think about it, with all its wonder and all its weight, it definitely beats just looking for the next nut.